Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Vasundhara, and on behalf of Shine.com, I welcome all of you to Shine HR Live in association with Orcapod today. Topic for the discussion is top talent acquisition trends in HR in 2021. The format of the event is our panelists will share inputs on the topic, which will be followed by a Q&A session. I would request all the attendees to keep posting questions in Q&A segment, and speakers will answer your question in some time. Now, I would like to introduce our panelists today. Mr. Taronish Mongia, co-founder and managing principal at Orcapod Consulting Private Limited, will be sharing an opening note. Mr. Vijay, head talent acquisition at Sabri India, our chief panelist today. Mr. Asif Ghani, AVP Product Management at Shine.com. I would again request all the attendees to keep posting questions during the session. I would now request Mr. Mongia to take over and share an opening note with our audience on top talent acquisition trends in HR in 2021. Over to you, sir.
Sundara, was it for me? I lost you midway.
Sir, I would request you to share your opening note.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Vasundhara. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to this webinar. I hope you find it useful and a good investment of your time. Quick introduction about me. I'm Tarunesh and I work for a company named Orcapod. We are actually a talent supply chain company. Today, working with close to 90 large enterprise clients across India. We help them across the spectrum of talent supply chain that includes permanent hiring, contingent workforce, helping them develop and nurture the freelance ecosystem, and also doing some strategic projects for them in MSP and RPO space. As we are finishing the last financial year, we have done more than 5,000 onboarding for our clients, and considering the kind of talent that we cater to, that's a fairly large number in a single year. Most of our clients are in outsourcing and offshoring business. That has been our focus until now. So they are not really an asset-heavy businesses. They are more talent-heavy businesses where people is central to what they do. That is why the talent acquisition is a very important and critical business process for them. As we are working and serving them since last 10 years, we have seen those structural changes and their preferences and biases for the talent acquisition in last 10 years. These changes are incremental, one at a time, but we have seen that happening across our 10-year journey with our clients. In fact, on one side, as we are talking about structural, long-term and incremental changes, we all know 2020 has been a very different year for all of us, where it has actually put all the common sense and logic on its head. And we have really redefined the way work, workplace, work timings, and work location. That's like that we have, in fact, most of the industries have redefined that way. By the way, I'm very happy and proud to say that most of our clients have dealt with this challenge in a pretty good way. They have maintained their business continuity, which is a great achievement considering the size of organization that I'm talking about. But they've also learned some new skills as they have dealt with this problem. They figured out new way of working. They solved their conventional problems in a different way. Not just our clients, thousands of other organizations have also dealt with that challenge. And everybody based on their context have figured out what works well for them. As they have learned new things, I'm sure some of them will remain relevant until this pandemic remains there, and then they will go back to their norm. But some of those learnings will remain them for life. That will fundamentally change the way they are working as of today. If I look from a talent acquisition perspective, 2021 is going to be a fundamentally different year than any year we have seen before when it talks about talent acquisition, because it's not only imbibe those incremental long-term changes that I talked about, but it will also imbibe this accelerated learning of 2020, where we have done a lot of things in a different way. So the way 2021 is going to be from a talent acquisition perspective is going to be very different than what we have seen in the past. And this is not just an empty statement. We are working with our clients and we know we work with close to 90 clients. We are a very good reflection of what's happening in industry. A lot of our clients are coming up with very unique and different ways of doing talent acquisition. And those changes are already reflected in their behavior, in their ask, and in the way that they're executing this business process for them. In fact, my honest confession is that while we are a talent acquisition and a talent supply chain company, but we are not really a client. While we help our clients in acquiring talent, but that talent is not consumed by us, but it is consumed by our clients. So it is always better that we hear the employer side of the story in terms of what they think the 2021 is going to be from a talent acquisition perspective, what they think, how their shopping basket, way of working, biases, preferences will be different this year than what it used to be in the past. And for that to happen, it is always good to hear from somebody who's on the other side of the table. And that's the reason we have a very special guest today on this panel, Vijay. Vijay works for Savre. In fact, he heads the talent acquisition for that company. We are super excited to see him here. Hi, Vijay. Thank you so much for coming on the call. And we are really looking forward to hear from you on the emerging trends this year and how you perceive talent acquisition is going to be in 2021. So thank you so much for being on a call. Vasundhara, thank you for giving me an opportunity. Back to you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Now I would request Mr. Vijay to share his thoughts on the topic.
Sure. Thanks, Vasundhara. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Great. So good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Shine.com, for giving me this opportunity to speak to all of you. Thanks, Manish, for the introduction as well. My topic is very interesting for me personally as well, because 2020 was a year which none of us kind of expected it to be the way it was. Most of the topics which were thrown to us, or most of the questions which came to us, were something for which we did not have answers immediately. Unprecedented year, and it also gave us an opportunity to look internally as well as externally to look at how we can solve most of our problems. So having said that, let me set the context by sharing things which one side we knew and one side we did not know, right? What we knew was the year was different. We are not going to hire too much of talent in terms of hiring for the year. What we need versus what is available is going to be very different, right? So being in the travel industry, let's say at Sabre Technologies, what happened is we were directly hit or directly impacted by this pandemic, because travel was completely cut off. As a result, recruitment was completely shut for almost like 3 to 4 months. And during this time, it gave us a great opportunity to look at what is the talent we already have, right? And how do we reutilize this talent or redeploy this talent at available places wherever there was a need, right? So that's one side of the question. But the later half of the year, I would say probably around July onwards, things started looking very different. On one side, the business was kind of picking up in a different pattern altogether. As a result, whatever we put on hold started moving ahead. That's number one. Number two, the needs of our customers, like the airlines domain as well as the hospitality domain, the needs changed, right? Rather than just operating an airline, they started looking at safety measures, other things, which kind of gave us an opportunity to look at new kind of product development altogether. So having said that, let me step into the topic and give you some insights into how the second half of the year has looked at. Right. So most of what I'm going to cover here are from research papers, LinkedIn research, and also from what I hear from the industry through my contacts and partners. Right. So getting ahead, Michael Page had done a talent trends report for 2021, and according to them, they are saying that healthcare sector as well as technology sector has been growing in spite of having a pandemic. Right. Healthcare, you know the reason why it is, right? There's a lot of research going on how to combat this pandemic and how do we get ahead of that. That's one side. Technology, however, because of work from home and other options, there was never a real lockdown in terms of hiring or work from anywhere for that. The report also said that 74% of technology companies were planning to give an increase in terms of the headcount. So they were planning to about 10 to 14% of growth in their annual headcount year on year. That's one. And if you look at technology industry in depth, which are the technology areas where we are seeing growth? AI, ML for sure is an area which is always growing, right? There's always a need for that. It continued to grow over last year as well. And healthcare, I already quoted that. However, SaaS, education technology, gaming technologies, these were new technologies which started growing during last year in a big fashion. That's one thing we need to quote. Technology companies also ensured that their workforce work from home or work from anywhere, so that they ensure that there is no drop in terms of project or their deliverables. Hiring activities, like I said, continued, and 75% of employees were also looking forward to looking at new opportunities. You won't believe the number I'm quoting, but then this is a verified number. About 75% of our tech workforce was actually looking forward to new challenges coming their way. And these were active. However, 22% of them were actually passively looking forward as well. So this kind of sets the context in terms of what the year was last year. Coming to this year, I'm going to quote about 6 to 7 topics, which is going to be different, or how it is going to define the year 2021. We are already in April, so most of you would have experienced most of these. So in case you find this a bit of a repetition, apologies for that. You can again ask questions in case you feel something is different in case of what you are feeling at this point of time. So number one thing is, it's a controversial topic I'm throwing here. We are saying that recruiting will hire less, right? Having said that, we will look at internal work and cataloging our employees can be deployed in another project somewhere. Directly, maybe after a training session, which is a short training session, which is required. So what happened is, one, we looked at internal talent, and then we looked at how we can use talent after giving a training program. So as a result, what has happened is recruiting budget kind of came down a bit. However, our learning and development budget got rejigged and it was improved. So this is one important thing which I would like to showcase here. But this is not.
Sorry to interrupt you in between. People are not able to hear you. Maybe if you can check your Wi-Fi connection once.
Okay, so do you
now
want me to?
Now you're audible, but in between
Yeah,
we lost you.
Vijay, we lost you midway, but now you're good.
Okay. Let me continue then. Let's hope it stays perfect. So like I said, just to recap, we saw our recruiting budget going down and our L&D budget going up. That was one significant change, because it's usually the other way around, or almost the same. We also saw that employees, rather than working on projects or departments, which is like separate from each other, we brought them together on a project basis, which means that based on demand, we'll pull employees to work on a project and then redeploy them elsewhere. So this kind of the siloed mentality came off, and it was brought together in terms of project-oriented development and delivery. So that's another important thing which we saw that. And in terms of recruiting as well, the way a recruiter looks at talent is usually on what is the skill set they have, what is the educational background, which companies they're working for. What got added to that, or a different dimension which we started looking for, is what is their adaptability? How good are they on problem solving, right? Rather than just looking at their technical capability and things like that. These two things also became primary for us, because you can't hire someone saying that this is a project you're going to work, but we don't know what is your future. Those were past, right? You have to give them upfront answer saying that this is what it is right now, but then be prepared to move around within the organization. So you have to look at adaptability in a big way. So that's number one. Number two, what we are looking at is a diverse talent pool. So for a recruiter, diversity in India meant male or female, right? But then diversity here, what I'm calling out is availability of a diverse talent pool, not only from Bangalore, or not only from a JP Nagar, Rajaji Nagar, Koramangala kind of talent, but then talent which is available from a Gurgaon, Pune, Hyderabad. So our reach has expanded, basically because of work from anywhere options being open, right? Number one. Number two, this also gave talent an opportunity to look at, because if you look at Bangalore right now, most of the talent has moved out. They have moved on to their so-called hometowns. They have moved on closer to their family, wherever they were. But then work has not stopped. And this gave us an opportunity to look at a big diverse pool of talent. And this is to our opportunity, and we should take the best out of this, which is available for us, right? Apart from this, that was number 2. Number 3, what I'm trying to say is, most of us have got onto virtual recruiting. So being in the industry for about 15 years, when I tell my hiring manager that, this guy is available for a video interview or a phone call, the immediate answer is no, get him in person. I want to see, I want to assess, right? Those days are gone. You can't really go and meet a candidate. Unfortunately, even till now, we have been in this pandemic for more than a year, but the situation has not changed. So this virtual interviewing will continue through 2021, and in fact, even further. That's what I think. And the degree to which we will use virtual interviewing will change. However, the reason being, the levels of experience will define what kind of an interview process you'll have. From my experience, we ran the entire campus hiring session, and we hired about 80 freshers completely remotely. We used Microsoft Teams for the entire process, and also used a talent assessment tool for this to ensure that they are technically evaluated before they come for the interview. So it was a video interview platform, completely virtual. So having said that, when you look at, probably looking at a director or a senior director or a VP kind of a talent, you can't really rely just on video interviewing, right? You need to give that kind of a personal touch. The candidate experience matters here a lot. And the candidate as well looks forward to have a direct interaction with you. So maybe when it comes to senior candidates, you may have a mix of both video as well as in-person kind of interviewing is what we feel. So having said that, virtual interviewing is something which we will see as continuing some throughout this year, right? Let me move on to my next topic. You have seen employer branding, so I don't have to introduce that topic to you guys, but employer branding until last year was something very different. So companies used to showcase their office, they used to showcase their benefits, and the work culture, those kind of things. But then none of us are going to office anymore. So what kind of branding can the company do? So as employees ourselves, we also look forward to something which is very current and very happening in the industry, to look forward or look up to a company, right? So employer branding will shift focus from such swanky office and cafeterias and other things to look at how they are going to do something which is touching the employee's life on a day-to-day basis. Number one, we came across companies showcasing that they set up a virtual office at home for the employees. From there, it was also that how they are helping employees and their families getting vaccinated. Number two. Number three, how they are helping them in other things like to ease their day-to-day issues with regard to their network availability, blah, blah, the list goes on. So the branding of a company, when it needs to appeal to our current generation of talent, has to shift from the swanky office altogether to what is their impact to an employee and how they have changed that. So that is going to be the next big shift. Having said that, the next one, the recruiter, if you look at least from my team, my own experience, recruiters used to be people who go to some hiring managers, ask for this is what you want, go back, do the talent pipeline, set the interviews up and things like that. But this is going to change drastically. There are 2 or 3 things which I told you. One, you have to evaluate talent remotely. Secondly, you have to look at talent which is available internally. And thirdly, you need to give an employee experience to someone remotely and where required in person as well. So all these things put together, recruiters will develop new skills, right? And the number one skill they develop will be adaptability, because the kind of skills we are going to look for, the places we are going to hire from, or the kind of interviews experience or the interview per se, what you're going to give for the candidate is going to change in a big way. And it has already changed. We are in the middle of change right now. So adaptability is something which the recruiter has to learn, number one. Number two, they will work very closely with HR in terms of defining certain process policies, and then how we can get the internal hiring process up and running. So for us at Sabre, we did a few interesting things here, but of course, without the help of our HR colleagues, it would not have been possible. So we used to have an 18-month lock-in period for every employee who's hired. So we kind of relaxed that completely. So if someone is there with us who's looking to change and is ready for the job, we used to give the job to them directly. That's number one. Number two, we also used to have a notice period for such internal transfers to happen. So it used to be a month of notice period, wherein he gives a notice to the current team and moves. We kind of abolished that as well. So it used to be a discussion between two hiring managers saying that, I need this talent. Okay, take it. This is a time frame. Go ahead and take the talent. So this kind of eased out a lot of things. So this was possible because the recruiter has worked very closely with the hiring manager and the HR team as well. So these are new skills which the recruiter is learning, and I would say that these are things which will continue, and these are few things which will evolve as well. Like, for example, a test platform has to become much more stronger in a country like India, because the way it was done earlier, you used to call someone for a test in the office and run it. But then being remote, you need to have certain mechanisms to prevent fraud, things like that. So that is going to be a big change. Video interviewing platform is something which is becoming very, very, very interesting, I would say. And tech savvy people who are following that, you would have seen that how things have changed. And using a whiteboard to do a normal interview is even possible using the test platform. So these are a few things which I would like to bring it up as the technology trends within talent acquisition. I'm open for questions. Probably you can start off and we can continue the discussion. Thank you so much.
I would request everyone to please keep posting questions in Q&A. We will answer your questions shortly. Thanks, Mr. Vijay. I hope we all got a lot of insights from your thoughts, and this will be really helpful for each one of us to plan hiring needs in 2021. Now, I would request Mr. Asif Ghani to share his views. Asif, over to you.
Thanks, Sundar. Thanks, Vijay, and thanks, Tarunesh, for all your insights. Hi, folks. So my name is Asif. A quick introduction. So I've been in the product management space for around 15 years now. Earlier heading the Naukri.com product development, now at Shine. So, and as rightly pointed out, 2020, as we all know, had been a very difficult year. For the product managers, this has been a very interesting year. So we were now thinking very orthogonal stuff, which we always wanted to do. In my past 15 years, I have never done things or never thought of ideas that we have thought in the last 1 year. And yes, as correctly pointed out, that pandemic, obviously it's a contactless environment. It's going to be like that. So the recruitment also has to be in a more contactless environment, starting from sourcing to hiring to onboarding, right? Everything is contactless. Just think of this technology, right? We are talking on Zoom, right? A few years back, this technology was only available with organizations like NASA, right? No one would ever have thought that this would be available on a mobile device and will be in your pocket, right? But see how the market has changed, right? So, and it's going to change, right? So there'll be newer things coming up, more in the AI and data science space. Things around virtual reality, augmented reality, a lot of interesting stuff is happening. It will also cut across the recruitment sector as well, right? So, but yes, right now, what we are focusing beyond these normal search and match algorithms is more on the contactless hiring, which as of now focuses around the video piece, right? The whole video piece. So we have already launched a product which is a two-way interview, right, which integrates with a Google Meet, and very soon will also be integrated with the Zoom and the MS Teams platform, wherein you can schedule interviews. A recruiter can have a two-way interview with a candidate. He can schedule the interview for the hiring manager, right? So those stuffs are there. Interestingly, what we've realized is that, as Vijay pointed out, that now the space is very much shifting from a skill-based assessment to the softer side of the employees, which are basically his traits, right? So his personality, his organizational fitment with the organization. It's very difficult to assess that even in a face-to-face interview. However, technology can do it, right? That's what you've seen. So all of these things have been proven that they can be algorithmically be controlled and can be derived, right? So as Shine, as an organization, what we are working right now, and very soon we'll be releasing a thing which is a single way interview, which is based on psycho-linguistic analysis of people. Right now, a difference between psychometric and psycho-linguistic, as you all may know, is that if you ask a question from a person that will you cross a red light, right? Everyone will say no. They will write no as an answer. But when the actual situation arises, it all depends on what she is thinking in her mind, what is her personality, and then she will take that decision whether to cross or not. And we'll be very surprised, a lot of people do cross the red lights, right? So psycholinguistic tries to bring out that aspect of a person. So it works on a big five ocean principle: openness, consciousness, assertiveness, emotional, and neuroticism. So what we do is, at an industry level, for every role, we know the personality traits which are required. Some personality traits should be more prominent than the other. So that's because we have been there in the market, we have engaged with so many organizations for industries like IT, BFSI, BPO, KPO. This information is readily available. So we have made those personality traits. The other interesting thing is that we can also work with organizations to know their specific personality traits for a specific role. Let's say for product managers, you might need a specific personality trait. However, for the product head, you might need a very different personality trait, right? Which may be very specific to an organization. So our organization psychologists can work with the HR team and come up with these personality traits. Now, what happens is you schedule an interview, right? There's a standard set of questions, or you can put your own questions. The questions don't really matter in this space. It's how the person is approaching to that question. What is his thought process? How is he speaking? We do a lot of facial recognition, gesture recognition, speech analysis, and come up with a score basis the traits, right? All these 5 traits of the person. And then the machine tries to map these traits to the requirement of the organization for that specific role, right? And then an AI system takes over and generates a comprehensive report for that person specific to that designation for that organization. And that's where we have seen a lot of ambiguities taken care of, right? This is one thing. Now, in a BPO and KPO hiring space where voice is more important, where your language proficiency is more important, so we're also working on a product which assesses a person on his language proficiency and returns and yields and a CEFR score, which is a market standard, right? So when you're doing a language proficiency assessment, and basis that, now all of these things, let's envision this, are built into one platform, right? Into one sourcing platform. So as a recruiter, you get a choice that, hey, I want to first schedule a 2-way video interview. Basis that, I will make some people enter into the single-way video interview, after which they need to take up a language proficiency. People who are passing that examination, then the workflow management tool takes over. They will be passed on to my hiring manager and they enter the next stage. So all of this can be seamlessly built now. And that's what we are building as of now. Now, besides this, what happens is, one other thing which we have realized adds a lot of value is background verification. So in this whole sourcing environment, we never think of this background verification thing. See, it happens at a very later stage. Now, what if a scenario wherein people are either pre-background verified from a reputed agency, or the recruiter gets a chance that when the decision of hiring has been taken, then on a single click, she can raise a request for background verification. And the entire background verification happens on the job portal, and she gets the report from a third-party agency, right? So that is another thing which we are working, which again starts to fall under the contactless hiring space. Besides that, Vijay also talked about new kind of branding these days, right? So branding has moved away from all these banners, mailers, all these stuff, right? So people need new kind of branding now. So let's say for consultants, specifically, if I'm taking an example, one kind of branding is on the CV branding, right? So one product that we are trying to build is that a consultant or anyone can define her branding template inside the system. Whenever any CV is downloaded, the branding of the consultant or the company is already there on each and every CV, right? Either in the form of a watermark or a header, footer, any sort of branding. And then the CV, whatever CV is being passed by the consultant, her branding is always there. So there is always a top of the mind recall in the mind of the company recruiter, right? Another interesting thing which we have also focusing on, now all of these things are fall very deep into the data science and AI space somewhere. Another thing is that, see, all these CVs that we get are in different forms and sizes. Now, somewhere a standardized format has to be created at an organizational level so that it starts to make all sense. Now, what we realize, a machine can do this, right? So, there are two kind of summaries that we have seen inside a CV. One is called an extractive summary, that you take out some important information from the CV and put it somewhere else, right? The other is called abstractive summary, wherein you create a content. What is that creation? Either you are writing an executive summary in a second person for that person, or a management record in a third person, right? A machine now we've seen can do all of that stuff. We can create abstractive summaries, we can create extractive summaries in third person, in first person, right, in second person. So that's also we are working that for every CV, let's say, if you can define that these are the important fields for me, right? So these fields should be present upfront on a different page. So every CV that I download should at least have the CV plus this format, right? And this format can also be a machine created format, right? So all the CVs that then you're working on the same format. So it becomes very easy to sift through those CVs, right? So yeah, so these are some of the things that in the interest of time, I'll just pause over here. I'll not talk more about stuff. So more than happy to answer the questions. And yeah, thanks everyone. Over to you, Vasundhara.
Thanks, Asif. Happy to know Shine is planning things in sync with top TA trends. Now we are open for Q&A session. All of you can share questions for the panelists and they'll try to answer all of them. So we have some questions here with us. Hi, thanks for the insights. Do you feel there will be an increased demand of L&D talent in coming years? Mr. Vijay.
Sure. So I can take the question. Yes, that's what we all think. And L&D as well will heavily depend on technology. So the kind of talent we look forward will not be just people who design content, but then people who can go ahead and present this content online as well. So there is one section which kind of designs content, and there is a technology partner who works with them to put this together and deliver. So that is going to be the future.
The other one is, given such massive layoffs in the IT industry in India, will it be beneficial or detrimental for recruitment industry?
Not really. So I would say that with the increase in demand from many of our counterparts and the technology industry per se, like I quoted in my introduction itself, many companies have resumed their hiring. So in fact, at Sabre, what we do is we go ahead and look for talent who has been hit by a layoff to ensure that two ways, right? One, they are available as a talent, and secondly, they can join us immediately as well. So I would say that it is definitely going to be an upward swing from here is what I feel.
The next question seems to be for Asif. How to get irrelevant CVs excluded in Shine effectively from a job posting?
Okay, so good that someone asked this question. What we have worked on as of now is a deep learning product called as ARS, Applied Relevance Scoring. So against every application that comes on a job being posted, a star rating is given, right? So a star rating is just to simplify the decision making. At the back end, it's a very complex scoring. It's a cosine similarity scoring that we figure out. So the entire profile of the job seeker, not now in the profile, what happens is the work that she has done currently holds more value than the work she has done previously. Now at a machine level, we are able to understand the importance of a word inside a CV, right? So basis all that information, the entire profile of the person is matched with the entire job description. The challenge is in this space is that CVs are very well written. They are long page documents, but sometimes jobs are very shabbily written. Sorry to say that, but that's the truth, right? So now in absence of a well written job, this ARS, right, may point out incorrectly. However, what we have seen is when a job is written in an acceptable format, this works wonders, right? So out of 5 stars, what happens? A 1 or 2 star is kind of an irrelevant CV, right? So we can, and this whole system is designed to weed out the irrelevant CVs. So you can very safely say that, hey, I don't even want to look at the 1 star and 2 star applicants because they are irrelevant. So that's one of the ways through which you can weed out these irrelevant applicants.
Thanks, Asif. I think this will be helpful. The next question is, in a work from anywhere situation, do you think it will affect the existing pay scale because now companies can hire from tier 2 or 3 cities? Mr. Vijay.
So not really, I would say, because as an organization, we have a specific pay band for a role, right? Having said that, unlike other countries, we don't have different pay bands for different cities. It is more or less similar. There could be a variation of max about 10% is what I feel. So it will not be a big impact.
So the next question is from Sonal Chaudhary. How to enhance branding the company in this virtual world?
So like I said, people are looking for how you are dealing with the current situation, how you are helping the society, how you are, helping the employee. What kind of, some companies have even announced, COVID holidays. Like if you announce that you, apart from your illness leaves, you get an additional 2 or 3 days, something like that. So these are new trends which we are seeing. And I think this is something which is unexplored. We are all trying to get into that space and trying to see how things grow up from there.
Next question I feel is for all the panelists. What's the future of work? Do we all continue work from home or we go back to office?
It's $1 million question. So I would say until we have a clear-cut announcement from the government saying that we are in tier 1, which is like the number of infections have reduced, the spread is reduced, and it is safe to be outside and be on travel and to get to gathering. I don't think it is safe as yet.
Taronish?
Yeah, so my response to this question would be in 2 aspects, my personal emotions and a logical answer. If someone asks me my personal emotions, I'm dying to go back to office. But if you really ask me a very logical and responsible answer, I'll say we'll still wait for government to announce that, because we are not the right people to decide whether the situation is in control or not. At least if I believe what media says, it is not. So I think we should hold on to our temptations. There is a very good reason government is suggesting us to be at home, and that's a responsible way to work until the situation improves. That would be my the second set of answer.
Asif, anything to add?
I enjoy being a product manager working from home. It gives me a lot of time to think. So I would look at it this way. It very much depends on the role in which you are, right? And also at a personal level. I've seen a lot of people manage their life very well in this environment, and a lot of people have not been able to manage their life, right? For some of the people, the productivity has skyrocketed, and for some, it has not even moved, right? So it all depends on a very case-to-case basis. Whenever that decision is taken, right? I'm saying when the pandemic is over, whenever the decision is taken, even at that time, it should be taken on a case-to-case basis. That's how it should.
Okay, so the next question is from Santosh Pillai. This is for Asif. How will Shine make it attractive for IT talent to register and seek assignments in IT companies?
Yeah. So so IT is one of our focus area as well, and it will remain so. There are a lot of activities that we're doing for getting good IT candidate, good IT jobs, right, on the site, and also good IT recruiters, because it's it becomes a vicious cycle in a job portal. Jobs, candidate, recruiter. If you don't have jobs, so candidates will not come, and if candidates are not there, recruiters will not be there, and if the recruiter is not there, how will you get jobs, right? So we have come out of that vicious cycle. Now we are into a virtuous cycle. We have good set of recruiters with us. We are getting good jobs and we are getting good candidates. So one is the organic way to get it via the SEO. So we're focusing a lot on SEO. If you would be doing searches on Shine versus, let's say, a few years back, you will see number 3, number 4 positions on SEO being occupied by Shine listings, right? So we get a lot of good quality traffic now. Plus, we also have recruiters posting high salaried jobs, right? So because that segment of users need to stick on your site, right? So jobs is one thing. There are a lot of different activities also that we do with these IT jobs people to keep them engaged on our site.
Okay. Next question is again from Santosh Pillai. It is for Taronish. Taronish, how do you see the demand situation shaping up in the IT industry over the next some years?
Okay, so I think as I was hearing Vijay, and I think my views resonate with what he said. But in fact, as I said, we are a very good representation of what's happening in IT industry, because we are not really a reflection of one company or two company. We are a reflection of more than 90 organizations operating in India. I can't really comment on how the IT industry employment market will evolve in next 3 or 4 years. But if you ask me from a short to medium term, there was never a better time to look out for an interesting job opportunity than what it is now. This is a I will say it is surprisingly irrational exuberance in the job market, that there's so much of employers out there, and that's really surprising, who are looking for high quality talent. So if you are really chasing a particular dream and you are looking for something very specific, I will strongly encourage you that this window is something that you can take it for your advantage.
Okay. Next question is from Ajit. I think this is for Asif. How is it Shine making sure that profiles on Shine are an updated data, is not the stagnated ones? For example, any small changes in one's career, it gets updated immediately on LinkedIn and Naukri.
So that's a very important aspect, that even if you manage to bring job seekers, how do you keep them updated on your platform, right? So everyone struggles, right? It's not an easy thing to make people keep on updating. So, but what we've realized is that earlier, see what was happening, everyone was shooting a lot of mailers to these people. Every day, these job seekers used to get 10, 20 mailers, 5 Naukri, 5 from Shine, 5 from Indeed, right? And they were just all kind of jobs which are coming to them, right? So what we realized is, hey, this doesn't help, right? So that's the reason we invested a lot in the data science space, to understand the job seeker, her requirement, and also, more importantly, her behavior. And more than her behavior, the behavior of her peers, right? So crowdsourcing intelligence was built into the platform. And that's what we try, that the jobs that we send to these job seekers are based on their behavior and the behavior of their peers, right? Rather than just superficial information based on skill sets that they have mentioned, right? So, and sometimes what happens is, these jobs look very different to a person, that, hey, why are such kind of jobs being sent to me? But what happens is, when people actually start to apply, we have realized that the hiring rate has increased, right? So that's what we have done, invested a lot behind data science, reduce the number of mailers, reduce the number of jobs to be shown, but show meaningful jobs to these people, right? So that's one way. Then we have a lot of these update flows. Now, there are 100 things that we need from a job seeker, right? But the point is that what is the most important thing at a different career stage and a different profile for different job seekers. So that's what you try to ask the most important things, and we keep on nudging them via mailers, via SMS, on site, to give us more and more information. And also, we tell them the reason why we are taking this information from you, so that the transparency is there. This will help you in this way if you give me this information. And then obviously a lot of gamification stuff that we do on the site to keep people engaged and participate more on the site, and give us more and more information.
Thanks, Asif. The next question is it an employer or employee market?
It sounds like chicken or egg, right? So, so yeah, I think it's a balanced thing we should look at. So some companies are behind certain talent, and some employees are looking forward to join certain companies. If you look at the talent market from 0 to 5 years, they don't have a specific preference. So they just need an software engineering kind of a role. So that is one segment, I would say. The other segment is slightly mature. They have specialized in something. They have decided their role in certain organization. So they would be looking at certain skill sets or certain kind of roles only. And same applies to a large corporate which is looking for talent as well. So they look for specialized skills, specialized talent, specialized employees. So this is the differentiation we see. And if you ask me whether it's an employer, it's a blend of both, and both has to arrive at both have to shake hand to get the right talent in place.
Okay.
Vasundhara, I will just like to add one more comment here. I just to what Vijay said, I think it's a good employer and a good employee market.
Very true.
Okay, so the next question is, now companies are focusing on internal talent development, and in this situation, how firm or executive search panel suppliers will survive?
So would you like to take that, Tarnish?
Okay, so in fact, one thing is that's not their problem. So let's be very honest about it. So survival of talent supply chain industry is not a responsibility of client, but my personal understanding is that there was never a better time for this industry than it is today. Because don't think in a very narrow domain of talent acquisition, I think there is fundamental change that are happening the way employment contracts are evolving, the handshakes are happening. This is no more the same lifetime employment markets that we are talking about that our parents have seen. If you keep innovating and you follow the trend and you figure out what is the real business problem of your clients, I think the future is far more brighter than what it was. Of course, it's not a market for a conventional run-of-the-mill throwing profile, because the business has become far more complex. So as Asif said, as I was hearing him, because he's the one who's kind of working at a cutting edge of talent acquisition, what should be happening rather than what is happening. So that kind of is a really eye-opener about what is possible. So as long as you are a great learner and you are adding real value to your client's business, nobody can really remove you from what you are doing. And as I said, future is bright.
The next question is from Maitri. Following the sudden change from offline interviewing to online interviewing channels, we have all seen a surge in the number of frauds, CVs, and candidates. How can employers and recruiters effectively filter and protect themselves from wasting time and resource on these profiles? Asif?
Okay, now this is an interesting question. See, this word fraud, I'll not call it fraud. It's a very strong word, right? So, and this word, if you ask me, is more used by the candidates for recruiters, right? So in that's the other environment, right? I understand that, yes, it is there. Now, how do you define a fraudulent CV or a candidate CV, right? So there are checks that a job portal puts, right? Those checks are basis on background and everything that we can do. Intent is something which is different to capture, right? Lot of frauds what we've seen, I'll not say from the candidate side, but also from the recruiter side, is that are from an intent base. You never know the intent of a person who's coming to your site, right? So that becomes very difficult. That can be judged by behavior. So we have lot of fraud stop mechanism based on our site, which captures the behavior of people at different points of time, and then try to classify them as a suspicious person, or as a fraudster, or as a good to go person. And then, as of now, we don't take decisions at a machine level, at least in that space. Though we can, but we don't, because the machine intelligence need to be built to that level wherein I can penalize a person based on some activities which I define as fraudulent, right? So yeah, there are mechanisms to control it. We are doing it, but yes, there are a lot of things which still can be done in that space.
Vasundhara, I have an input on that. You want me to add 2 more lines to what Asif said?
Sure, definitely.
Yeah, sure.
So first thing is, I think it was a fairly relevant question in the context of talent acquisition. But I just want to take a step back and want to take an example. When PayPal came in the late 90s, and as they started doing transaction, in the early heydays when they were super successful, their fraudulent activity was eroding 5% of the total transaction amount. Uh, I think all these technology-enabled hiring, video interviews, and all, it has huge advantage. It kind of shrinks your the response time to the talent onboarding by 15 to 20%. It reduces a lot of waste. It reduces a lot of logistical effort that we used to put in having this physical handshake and all. But needless to say, as it is bringing a lot of benefits on the table, it also exposes you to a lot of direct or indirect risk. These are very early days for consumers to understand those risks. They will keep hitting us, just like the fraudulent activity on UPI hits a lot of people. I think we are a smart community. We will understand the pitfalls of these platforms. So I'm sure with time, as we will understand to leverage it more for accelerated onboarding, we will also understand how to weed out the fraudulent activities. Maybe they will still remain, but that was always the case even in the real world interviewing also. So I don't think we can really eradicate it, but we will take it to a manageable level. And then the advantages of all this technology enabled hiring will outweigh the losses or the disadvantage of these kind of behaviors. That is my personal view on it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tyronish. Thank you for your inputs.
And just one more point, Vasudha, adding to that. See, we only show to the recruiter community an X% of the CVs that actually register with us, right? So, lot of CVs we already take care of in the fraudulent space. So, just how do you define? So maybe some bad words present inside a CV can also qualify it as an obscene image present inside a CV, right? Some racial comment or something. A lot of these things, right, present inside the CV. We already weed out a lot of these things, right? So we only present a very specific set to our recruiters, right? So there are a lot of mechanisms which are already there in place as well as of now.
Okay, thanks, Asif and Tyronish. I think this will be of much help. So we are taking last question for today. The question is, we moved from era of job posting on newspaper to job portals and then to social media. What's next?
You want me to take that question?
Yeah, Asif, you can also share your inputs.
I'll just put a scenario in front of you, right? So imagine that a hiring manager, right? It may be scary to some, right? So, but let's an employee comes into the office of her hiring manager and says, "Hey, boss, it's enough. I want to move on," right? So the hiring manager says, "Okay." Right now, see what the problem is. The hiring manager doesn't know how important is this person for me, right? Will I be able to hire a person against this position? How much time is going to take? Who's going to take all that pain of writing a JD, boss? And my HR will be behind me. Write a JD. I have to take so many interviews, follow up, blah blah blah. Right? Now imagine a scenario: a person walks into the office, says, "I want to move on." The hiring manager says, "Okay, no issues. Give me some time." And there is an Alexa device kept in front of him. He says that employee ID so and so is moving on. Alexa says, "Don't worry, let me find people similar to her." Right now, Alexa is integrated with the HRIS. Alexa knows the entire history, the CV of the person, and his entire what do you say appraisal cycle. All the comments which have been posted for this person, the kind of appraisal, the rating this person has taken, creates a new CV for this at the back end, and then goes to a job portal and sees the similar candidates which are available, and then automatically asks the question, "I have found 10 people who match this person. Do you want me to set up an interview?" The person says yes, right? The mail on SMS goes, and interview is scheduled. The calendar of the hiring manager is synced with Alexa, and the interview is automatically synced, and the interview then happens maybe on a video interview kind of environment, right? So this is probably kind of the future which at least I can see coming in the next 1 or 2, 3 years in this market.
Anything to add, Vijay?
Yeah, my only comment is the recruiting fraternity will take a hit because of this kind of an automation.
Right. So see, that's future sometimes looks scary, right? So, but yeah. So someone asked that question, so I answered that question. So.
Okay, so we are running out of time now, and we are not able to answer all the questions, but I assure you that we'll reach out to the panelists and we'll try to share a Q&A guide post the event. Now, on behalf of Shine.com, I would like to thank our panelists today. Thanks everyone for being such a wonderful audience and making the session so much interactive. Recording of the webinar will be shared with all of you along with the feedback mail. Thanks everyone, it was a great session. This is Vasundhara signing off now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.